Welcome back. It's the Big Blue Banter New York Giants football podcast. I'm Dan Schneider, joined as always my co-host Nick Filato. Today we're here to recap the Giants' all-22 film on the offensive side of the ball against the Steelers in their Week 8 loss to the Steelers, dropping the Giants to 2-6. As we always do, and I really appreciate the commenter who said something last week about how what really stands out about our show to him is that unlike some of these other film cut-up shows, it's not just play after play after play. It's us breaking down concepts and then talking about things and then going to the film as evidence of things that we just broke down. So that's something we'll continue to do. I really appreciate that. One thing we ask of you is please hit the like button if you're watching right now. We need your help. We need your help to support the show. These videos, the algorithm with YouTube, it all relies on your likes, your comments, and subscribing to the page. We're on a drive right now, Nick and I, to get to 10,000 subscribers as soon as possible. We're about 1,500 off from that number. We would like to hit 10K. You can help us do that. We keep seeing, some people saying, oh, I just found your show a week ago or 2 weeks ago. Thank you for finding the show, and thank you for supporting the show. And also let us know how you found it. We want to know if that's just through like the algorithm with YouTube, a natural kind of, organic thing from people liking the show. So please hit the like button right now. It's going to take you a couple seconds. Helps us a lot. Nick, how you doing today after watching the tape this morning?
I love watching the New York Giants tape. No, but honestly, it wasn't as bad as I think.
It wasn't that bad.
It wasn't that bad. Daniel Jones actually had some nice throws in the second half. He's still doing Daniel Jones things, and he didn't take advantage of situations that presented themselves that could have earned the New York Giants a win. But how about yourself, man? What you up to?
Definitely a better feeling than I had watching the Cincinnati tape and Eagles tape. Those were just throw them out tape, hard to watch, nothing fun about them, no good throws all game. This game had good throws from Daniel Jones, weirdly enough, Nick, and it's maybe something we can talk about at some point, but it just seems to me like when it's all on the line, like that last drive of the game, we see some of his best work, the Theo Johnson throw, the Neighbors throw along the sideline. I don't know what it is. Some people have suggested to me it's that like during the beginning of the game, he's thinking a lot. And then at the end of the game, you take the thinking off his plate and he can just play free. I just don't understand why you wouldn't play free the whole game at this point in your career. There's no real reason not to. The mistakes, don't worry about them so much. But it is so odd to me. I think the main takeaway I had from watching the film was that the Giants did a much better job in this game of establishing a balance between the run and the pass. And it's what allowed them to stay in the game. It's what allowed them to have a chance to come back in the game. And quite frankly, it's what generated most of their offense. The balance in this game. They hit some big plays. A lot of those big plays might not be possible if they didn't hit the plays in the run game, in the pass game, I'm saying, and then they hit the plays in the run game. And Tyrone Tracy, this is the second time we've seen him, Nick. We'll talk about him in a little bit. This is the second time we've seen him in a lot of ways put the offense on his back. Sure, there were some big plays in the pass game as well, but Tracy was really the engine of this offense in this game.
Both halves were started with 2 consecutive runs, whether it be zone read to start and then duo, or duo to start and then zone read. So the Giants were diversifying their rushing attack through similar type of looks. They were running shotgun duo. It looked like it could be zone read, and that changes the reads for the linebackers and gave the New York Giants an advantage up front. It's one of the reasons why there was some space for the New York Giants. And I want to say this too, man. The Giants opened some holes for Tyrone Tracy Jr. Tyrone Tracy Jr., he maximized those holes, but I felt like John Michael Schmitz, John Runyon a little bit. I was a little bit disappointed with his performance, but the interior offensive line, they were able to create some space, and that was enhanced by the play calling from the New York Giants, the doubling up of rushing, the changing of the rushing scheme. And then in the second half, they changed it up again, and they came out with a zone read run that went for a modest gain, and then they ran one polar power with the backside guard leading the way. And then they started running play action off of that to bring John Runyon from the backside to help out with TJ Watt on the opposite side of the line of scrimmage. So that's somewhat marrying the pass in the run game because it looks like it could be a run. And if you go into the mesh point, those linebackers bite up and it provides space for Darius Slayton to possibly be hit on a backside dig route, which we saw, Dan. I don't know if you saw this on the tape, but there was a backside dig to Darius Slayton in the second half. We were calling Daniel Jones out last game for not doing it. And I'm not sitting here saying, oh, well, he did it once. It's amazing. But he did find a backside dig in this game in the second half. So I wanted to give him his kudos there.
Yeah, he did. And that was interesting to see on tape for sure. Very good. Again, it is what it is at this point on that front, but nice to see for certain. And What I like what you talked about with the diversity in the run game. I like what you talked about with just kind of the Giants having what it felt like to me more of a focus on the run game in this game as part of their plan of attack. Because I think moving forward, for as long as they start Daniel Jones, and Jones has been confirmed as the starter for this week, coming up against Washington by Jordan Ronan and by Brian Dable at his presser. And like you
I love
said
how
on
you
last,
led with Jordan Ronan.
I just the first one that came. I saw his tweet earlier, and you mentioned last night's pod, which I think was a great point, that if they're going to start him this game, they probably will start him against Carolina in Germany. So we're probably going to roll into the bye week at the very least. But if you're going to roll with him moving forward, it's definitely great to focus on getting your run game going. That's the best way to move this offense right now. Allow him to kind of get back to some of the things that he did with Garrett, even though, we don't want to lean too much on the Garrett era, but Jones is at his best when he's coming off play action and has that ability to kind of, drive the football from those drops.
There was still a lot of shotgun. They
There
went
was,
out
there
under
was. A lot of
center.
shotgun runs too.
A lot of shotgun runs. There was a lot of 3-by-1 nub zone read runs that were successful in the second half. And by a lot, I just mean a few, but they changed it up. That was one of the things it seemed like that Brian Dable and the Giants coaching staff went into halftime. Like, we're doing a good job running the football. Let's change up our formations. Let's change up how we're employing our rushing attack. So I wanted to give the coaching staff credit because it at least kept the Giants in this game. And I'll say this too. It was disappointing, Dan, because I'm sitting here saying that the Giants did a good job adjusting certain things in the second half, but I was pissed off watching the second half of tape here because the Giants left a lot on the field and they really shot themselves in
Yeah.
the foot. Because that first drive out of the second half, you suffer 2 sacks that knock you out of field goal range. We acknowledged that in yesterday's stream, and that's terrible. You can't leave points on the board. But then the second drive, the Giants take an illegal shift penalty, a delay of game penalty, and then a 2nd and 16 sack that backed the Giants way up. What happened right after that? It was a punt that was returned for a touchdown by Calvin Austin. And then on the third drive, they start that third drive with a false start, and it ends up in a punt. So it's just coming out of halftime, you have to take advantage of your ability to plan and prepare and attack the defense. And the Giants offense, they were wildly sloppy in the beginning of the third quarter, and that ultimately did them in.
Yeah, you're right. It really did look like that on tape. Like there wasn't a lot of punts from the Giants. They didn't really get stopped in a lot of times. They did at times, but not as often as you would think in a game where they didn't score that many points. And reality is they shot themselves in the foot. They took points off the board with those 2 consecutive sacks, like you mentioned, to start second half, the second of which I just still don't really know what happened with Jones. He did, he kind of just hops into non-existent pressure. The pocket was fine, and he's just stepping up through it. We've seen that throughout his career. He looks toward Neighbors on that play, Nick. And he just doesn't take the shot, but the safety's all the way on the far hash at that time. So I'm just not sure why he didn't take that shot. I think somebody said it best in my replies. If he's even, he's leaving when it comes to Neighbors. And he was even with the DB at that time. And you got to give him an opportunity there. At the very least, take the check down to Tracy because Tracy had so much space and just get yourself into field goal range. But walking yourself into that sack really led to us having a punt there and took 3 off the board. And then obviously, the later in the game when he didn't get the protection set and he didn't slide Theo Johnson to the right side, that led to a sack fumble, which also took 3 points off the board at the very minimum.
Absolutely. And I wanted to ask you this because it's wild to say this given the fact that Malik Neighbors is such a huge part of the Giants game plan. And he had 13 targets again, wasn't all that efficient on him, caught 7 for like 71 or whatever.
Yeah.
But there were situations where I wanted them to go to Neighbors even more and give him more targets and more opportunity. And specifically it was when he was not against Joey Porter Jr. and he was facing Dante Jackson, and it was one-on-one single high. And it wasn't like the safety was aggressively flowing over top. Now, I'm only really thinking of 3, I think, situations where or 3 plays I want to focus on. But when you have that one-on-one matchup, you should take it, especially if it's against Dante. And I think you could do it against Joey Porter Jr. Like Joey Porter Jr., he's good, he's big, he's physical, but Neighbors was beating him. He got away with that defensive hold because Malik Neighbors catches that football if Joey Porter Jr. doesn't hold on to it. Look like his glove or something that was wrapped around his wrist. So there were some opportunities, I think, that were possibly left on the field to attack Pittsburgh deep when there was an obvious one-on-one situation with a middle of the field closed safety.
No, I think there's something going on there. Honestly, I feel like the Jones Neighbors rapport has not gone the direction we've wanted it to as the season's gone on for whatever reason. Enough targets in this game for sure, but opportunities missed. And it's not just to say that the stupid plays the Giants made took points off the board. the two I mentioned. There's also Malik Neighbors not getting set to take away the touchdown to earlier in the game to my blanking on Manhurts. That's 4 points off the board. That's not on Jones. That's on the receivers. Now we've got 3 plays where we're taking a combination of, we're taking 7-10 points off the board right there in a close game. So
Yeah, exactly. There were just some deep shots to Darius Slayton against Joey Porter Jr.
Yeah.
And I was like, yo, let's get that to Neighbors if he's not getting huge focus from the safety, which it didn't seem like on those plays it was like that. But anyways, though, it's neither here nor there. The Giants could not get it done offensively once again, and it's really unfortunate because the wildly bright spot that we got to watch on Monday night is probably not going to be able to play against Washington. And that is, of course, Tyrone Tracy Jr., who was phenomenal in this game. And with that, I'm going to play some of his plays for the YouTube audience.
Yeah, these are some of this is just a cut up I made of what I thought were his best plays of the game. And I think you're going to see here a combination of traits that have Nick and I so excited about him as a prospect. And power, raw power, contact balance, the jump cut ability, the lateral agility, the speed, the raw speed that he put up in this game by, hitting that 20-mile-per-hour mark, over that 20-mile-per-hour mark, the cutback ability, the vision we talk about, and just decisiveness as a runner. I really feel like Tracy looks to me, Nick, when you combine all of those traits, like a prospect who could potentially be a workhorse. He was a workhorse in this game. And not just a workhorse, a difference maker. He had a 45-yard touchdown that altered the entire game. He had a run that you see on the first play, and there you see he almost broke another big one. And this is all, by the way, Nick, with a 20-yard run that was called back by what I thought was a pretty questionable holding call on John Runyon. Like, I kind of understand why they threw the flag, but to me, it was kind of ticky-tacky. But yeah, that, and now he's over 165 for the game rushing on 21 attempts. So really just a phenomenal performance by Tracy. I think this could go down as one of our best 5th-round picks ever if he stays healthy. I really do believe he's shown enough from a talent standpoint. The traits are all there, and it's a combination of so many different traits.
Yes. So many different traits, man, because you're talking about footwork, patience, vision, hitting the hole right as the block develops. His timing behind the line of scrimmage is something that has really impressed me. And that's something you don't see a lot, Dan, from these 5th-round rookies, these day 3 rookies, right? And he's coming in, and we've talked about this ad nauseum at this point, but it's worth reiterating. He has 1 year under his belt as a running back, dude. 1 freaking year. This guy was a wide receiver at Iowa, which is like a barren wasteland of wide receiver talent. He goes to Purdue, runs primarily out of shotgun, and maybe that's one of the reasons. Probably not. But the fact that the Giants are running a lot out of shotgun right now is probably conducive to his skill set. And I think he can align under center, but we haven't seen that much I formation. We haven't seen that much under center, as I said at the top of the show. And the Giants were in 11 personnel, like 77, 78% of the time in this game. It did not seem like they had a lot of 12 personnel packages out there.
And I love just on that, and we'll go over it later on that touchdown run, but I love how he finishes that. But the other thing with Tracy is, Nick, there's still room. Like, there's still meat left on the bone. We haven't really seen him utilized, in my opinion, to his full extent as a receiver. And that's not maybe a knock on Dable or a knock on Jones. It's just a reality of what we've seen thus far. I think there's a possibility in his future throughout this four-year rookie contract, and hopefully he'll have a chance to sign again after that if he continues to play well, where he could become a weapon in the passing game. Right now, he's made some plays in the passing game, Nick, and we've seen some moments where it's been close. They've lined him up out wide. They threw him that ball against Dallas, but the close hasn't come to fruition yet. It will come to fruition at some point. Like, there will be a time where they can get to a groove where they really utilize his skill set as a receiver as well as a running back. And then he becomes an even bigger weapon for the Giants, because there are a few players in the NFL, Nick, who do have that dual threat ability as a running back. Christian McCaffrey's the number one example. He's not going to be that. No one is that, but there are other guys like that who give defenses fits because they alter the way you can scheme against them, and they give you so much more to have to work with as a defense, have to worry about.
I'm not a big comp guy, but I am trying to sit here and think of a realistic comparison.
I like Josh Norris's. I've always liked it. I thought it was the best one. He has David Johnson, and I really think it's really phenomenal comp.
David Johnson was a little bit bigger, though, wasn't he?
Oh, maybe.
I thought David Johnson was like 225.
Maybe. I'm not positive. I don't remember.
Either way, I don't think that's a terrible comp. And if you get remember, David Johnson was elite.
Prime David Johnson was awesome before the injuries.
Yeah, and it was like a wrist injury that held him out for almost an entire season. That was devastating. I remember that.
Yeah. He just
Dude,
was never the same after. I think he had a
nah.
couple other nicks, but yeah,
Yeah.
Tyrone Tracy has me excited about the Giants moving forward. 5th-round capital. That's all they had to use on him. He's under contract for I think about $1 million against the cap a year. Just a great example of why you don't pour major assets to the running back position. And I will say this, just a general note. I really thought this was the best game for Greg Van Roten. Just watching him, there was a couple plays. There's a phenomenal play where he put a lineman on the ground. I thought he did a great job. It was actually a linebacker coming up through the A gap. And I just thought, looking at Greg Van Roten and hearing about that speech he gave to the locker room after the game, just that leadership that he brings to the line and the veteran presence, this is a good $3 million signing. Like, this is what the Giants need to continue. These are the supplements you need on any roster, these types of players. So I wanted to give him a shout out for how he played in this game. And we're going to get to it later because there's stuff to talk about and we'll get to in our superlatives. But just a hint, another player Nick and I liked on tape, and I loved him on tape this game compared to what we've seen this season. And then I saw in your notes that you liked him, is Theo Johnson. And that's a good sign, too, because the Giants invested a 4th-round pick in him, and he's had a rough start to the season. And I thought this was also his best game of the season by far.
Best game of the season by far. I'll tell you what wasn't the best, Dan. The dumbass penalties this offense was committing, dude, because there were so many, man. The Giants were literally just taking a shotgun, looking at their foot, and just continuously shooting and blowing off every single one of their freaking toes, man. Because how many drives were just absolutely ruined by dumb penalties, right? Like, you have your holding penalties, like the John Runyon hold. You have your false starts, and then you have your illegal shifts. Then you have your guys not getting set. Then you have your delay of games that absolutely are killing drives. We talked about how it really affected the Giants in the second half, but it was also happening in the first quarter, in the second quarter, all throughout the first half. So that needs to get cleaned up. And I get it. It's difficult to play in Pittsburgh, Dan, but holy shit, man, if we can do anything as a coaching staff to mitigate the issues that the Giants have at certain positions on this roster, it's ensuring that everyone's at least ready and prepared to play to not make these kind of mistakes. I'm sure they tried to do that, but it did not translate on the field. And these penalties really killed this Giants offense.
Yeah, it was a weird game for the Giants from the penalty standpoint. Some of these are just ones that have been reoccurring. We've talked about linemen downfield, but others were just not getting set at the snap, things of that nature. They've got to clean all that up. And, I always struggle with who to blame, the coaches or the players. The players have to execute. The coaches have to get them prepared to execute. But it's a combination of both, and it made a big difference in this game for sure, in addition to all those other little things we've discussed.
I love a great deal as much as the next guy, but I'm not going to crawl through a bed of hot coals just to save a few bucks. It has to be easy. No hoops, no BS. So when Mint Mobile said it was easy to get wireless for $15 a month with the purchase of a 3-month plan, I called them on it. Turns out, it really is that easy to get wireless for $15 a month. The longest part of the process was the time I spent on hold waiting to break up with my old provider. And you can have a similar experience. To get this new customer offer from Mint Mobile and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/BBB. That's mintmobile.com/BBB. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/BBB. That's 3 Bs. $45 payment upfront, required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower, above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. Hey, Giants fans, we've teamed up with Buck Foston to give away exclusive free apparel from hats to premium sweatshirts and hoodies. It's easy to enter. Just follow them on Instagram @_Buck Foston or sign up for the newsletter at buckfoston.com. Next, DM them our 20% discount code BLUE20 on Instagram or through their website's chatbot, and you're entered in the giveaway drawing. You can participate every week and boost your chances by tagging friends and liking posts. 3 winners are picked at random each week. It's simple, free, and a great way to score apparel from Buck Foston. You must reside in the United States to enter. Terms and conditions apply.
And one more thing that I'm sure we'll touch a little bit on in the breakdown of the plays in a moment is just how disappointing it was for Chris Hubbard in his debut with the Giants.
Oh, yeah, it was rough.
I mean, they deemed him to be the best option at left tackle. I personally thought Azudu played better against the Eagles than Hubbard did against the Steelers, though it's obviously a more difficult matchup. I think Alex Highsmith had 13 pressures against Chris Hubbard. I mean, it just did not look like he was prepared to play at all. There was the early lineman downfield, I think on the screen to Theo, that got called back, where he's just like in no man's land, no idea what he's doing. New guy to the team. Like, this is just, it's really weird with what's going on at left tackle with the Giants.
We have to talk about that before we get into plays.
Yeah.
I tweeted something about this. It's like, look, your backup plan going into the season for swing tackle was Josh Azudu. Last year, it was Josh Azudu as well, and you cut Tyree Phillips and you got him back. And Tyree Phillips is better than any of these swing tackles that the Giants are trotting out there right now. But you abandoned Josh Azudu after one game at left tackle and started a guy you signed off the 49ers practice squad in Chris Hubbard, who has hardly been with the team. He's been with the team for 10 freaking days, and he's starting against the Pittsburgh Steelers on Monday Night Football. That plan has to be chastised.
Yeah.
And Joe Shane needs to be besmirched for this type of ineffectiveness, all while you have Evan Neal, Dan, just hanging out on your bench. Just hanging
special
out.
Team snap, I think, this game.
No, it wasn't a special team snap, baby. It was an offensive snap. How dare you take that away from him? It was a 2-point conversion.
Oh, that's why I missed it, because that play was so ridiculous.
It was a 2-point conversion. Evan Neal was out there. What the hell is the plan at tackle? Like we said on the stream, man, Joe Shane was just crossing his fingers saying, I hope Andrew Thomas and Jermaine Illuminor do not get hurt. And if they do, we'll figure it out. Well, they're really not figuring it out right now.
Yeah.
It's affecting the Giants' ability to win football games and move the football.
Yeah, and they're going to have to make a big decision this week. I don't think you can go back to Hubbard after that. I mean, maybe you could say, I hope he gets better as the season goes along and he has more experience in the system and stuff like that. But now is not the time to find that out. He really derailed a lot of what the Giants wanted to do in this game, and Alex Highsmith just destroyed him, and outside of Hubbard, I felt like the Giants O-line actually pass protected pretty well in this game and run block pretty well. Like if you take out just Hubbard, this wasn't a bad game for the Giants O-line, but he was so bad that he brings everyone down.
Yeah, it wasn't good. I would say this, though, about Hubbard. There were a few reps.
Did you feel that way about the O-line, or you disagreed? You thought
No, I agree.
Game?
I think the offensive line played much better than I expected against this opponent. This is the most formidable foe the Giants have played, according to just strength up front in the defensive front. Cam Hayward, who's like an absolute beast, man, and players like that.
No, he really,
Chris Hubbard, though, had a few reps where it's like, if we can just get that consistently.
Yeah. It's what they saw. It's probably why they started him, right? They thought like this is a level of play that Azudu doesn't have in him. It's just unbelievable to me that they don't feel any kind of confidence at all in Evan Neal to give him a shot at left tackle. Just think of what it could do for them as a franchise if they just gave him a shot and it surprised them and it worked. And, like with where they're at and what they need, the wins that they need from an asset standpoint, this is we just don't know for sure. I don't know for sure if he's done. I know it seems like every fan has made their mind up on Neal, but I'm just not ready to turn that page just yet.
And this is how us fans are going to think, and us people who cover the team. It's like this Evan Neal is an asset that is just toiling away and wasting in what is a lost season now. So put him out there and let's see what he has. But Brian Daboll views it differently. Brian Daboll's coaching for his job, even though he was given his reassurance from John Mara. He does not want to lose football games, and it doesn't seem like him or the Giants offensive line coaches, Carmen Brasillo or Ferentz, believe that Evan Neal is ready to step in and play left tackle for the Giants, and they don't want to move Jermaine Illuminor from the right side to the left side. Maybe that happens this week after this Chris Hubbard experiment failed. But one thing is for certain, the Giants are freaking desperate right now at offensive tackle, and they have a former top 10 pick just sitting there who has very good tape at Alabama playing left tackle, and he is just sitting like, well, how does he feel? Like, how does 73 feel on the sideline watching them sign Chris Hubbard off of someone's practice squad and him go and play over Evan Neal after Andrew Thomas was hurt and after Josh Azudu failed? It's like they would put you out there possibly at this point, man. Like it's getting bad, and I'm not trying to kick Evan Neal while he's down, but I just want to know what the hell is going on, because this is a huge asset that is just not contributing at all, and he's healthy at the moment.
Yeah, there's a lot of those question marks right now as to what's going on with the Giants in a lot of different areas from an off-field standpoint. It's not good, and I think one important note is while John Mara did kind of give that boost of confidence to the media about Daboll coming back, there was a listener who gave me a great reminder of a time in the past. I believe we've had so many now, it's hard to remember. It was Judge, where he gave him a boost of confidence mid-season and then went on to fire him that season. So I think ultimately if the Giants toil away to like a 2 or 3 or 4 win season, I don't know how strong that John Mara, vote of confidence really will be.
He had that caveat too, right? The operative word was anticipate. It's like, I don't anticipate moving on from him. And it's like, well, it was only October at that point. So we still got November and December and early January.
Got a long way to go.
Long way to go.
All right, Nick. Let's get to some film breakdown. Let's get to some plays.
All right, let's get into some plays. We love going over some plays here on the Big Blue Banter podcast. And I got to say, Dan, The Giants opened this game exactly how we wanted them to open the game against the Cincinnati Bengals, and they did not. Exactly how we wanted them to open the game against the Philadelphia Eagles, and they absolutely did not. And that was run the football twice by varying the rushing attempts and then hit a play action pass. And it worked against Pittsburgh Steelers. Again, a very formidable and tough defense. 43-yard connection to Darius Slayton from the shotgun. We're going to see Daniel Jones goes into the mesh point. They pull John Runyon over. Looks like it could be a run. Linebackers react. They flow to their left. John Runyon just helping out with TJ Watt. Alex Highsmith takes that wide path. Daniel Jones fires a football and connects with Darius Slayton for a 43-yard gain on this skinny post. This is a good play.
This is a good example. This is the play I was talking about with Greg Van Roten just burying the A-gap blitzer, whoever that was for Pittsburgh. It's fun to watch.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. A-gap blitzer, I think that might be Patrick Queen. Gets underneath him, falls on top. A lot of snatch and trap from the Giants.
Yeah.
Luminor did it a few times as well. So kudos to the Giants offensive line for that. And I just want to acknowledge Daniel Jones does a really good job here keeping his eyes on Malik Neighbors. Now, I think he was actually checking to see how Malik Neighbors was doing against Joey Porter Jr., but watch how Minkah Fitzpatrick's like, oh, number one's over there. Okay, I'm going to flow over that way, follow Daniel Jones's eyes. And then Jones quickly snaps to, fires to the skinny post in the voided area of where Minkah Fitzpatrick was at the beginning of the play in the middle of the field, closed safety.
Yep. Excellent throw from Daniel Jones here. Excellent read from Daniel Jones here.
Yeah, this is quick by Daniel Jones. I wish he could do this a little bit more often. We see Chris Hubbard. Good job by Wan'Dale Robinson to at least engage Highsmith. Yeah. And I don't know, Hubbard just forgot that he had to block.
What happened with Hubbard on this one? This is one of those plays I was talking about. Those examples of just Hubbard seemingly lost at times in space.
Yeah, I mean, did he think Alex
Highsmith 31 he thought was blitzing? I don't know.
Or maybe he thought Alex Highsmith was going to stick with Wan'Dale Robinson. It's funny, though, because, like, obviously Chris Hubbard didn't believe this, but watching it like this, one could perceive that he's like, oh, yeah, Wan'Dale's got him. Wan'Dale's got it. That's a good throw, though, by Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
Right over the top. Tough play for Dante Jackson to make, and Darius Slayton went up, climbed the ladder, and made the catch. Good job. Now we're going to get a 2nd and 8 zone read to Tyrone Tracy Jr., and he reads the flow and cuts back for 10 yards, man. And this is simple. We went over a couple of Tyrone Tracy Jr. runs before, but watch, you can see it's zone. Everybody steps to one side. The entire Pittsburgh defense gets outside of that hash. And then at that moment, once you get a little bit of press, because Pittsburgh does a good job, Cam Hayward pushing back. I think that's it's Runyon. He just cuts back right into Minkah Fitzpatrick, 10 yards. Good run.
Yeah, great vision and good decisiveness from Tracy.
Absolutely. I'm wondering, dude, if his knee doesn't touch right there, if he could just roll over, that would have been one of those types of players.
Like the Ken Walker run.
Yeah, Ken Walker's a maniac, man. All right, now we're going to have a 4th and 2 play. I like the fact the Giants went for it here, even though Greg Joseph was kicking field goals like a madman yesterday. But the Giants diagnosed that this defense in these 3rd and short and these 4th and short situations enjoy running man coverage. So you're going to motion Malik Neighbors late from a bunch to the boundary towards Darius Slayton, who is at the top of the numbers on the field side. And once you motion him, you're just going to roll Daniel Jones towards Malik Neighbors, and you're going to run Darius Slayton directly at, I think that's Beanie Bishop, number 31, because the man coverage gets confirmed upon the motion. And this is a natural pick that you're going to create. Completely legal. Force Beanie Bishop over top. Connect with Malik Neighbors, first down. Simple and easy, bro.
Yeah, I did like that decision by Dable as well to go for it there. It felt like he knew it was in the moment he needed to make that kind of aggressive call.
You have the entire protection sliding this way with it. This is a move the pocket type of play. Simple and easy. Now we're going to have a 3rd and 8 slot fade empty. Should have been a touchdown, I think, to Malik Neighbors, and Neighbors could not get his foot in bounds. This is really good coverage by Jackson, and I thought this was an excellent throw by Daniel Jones as well, because where's the separation?
Right.
Jackson does a great job squeezing Malik Neighbors to the sideline, so Jones puts it in front and allows him to go up and make a catch at the pylon. So to me, this is a play where you look at Malik Neighbors and you say, I expect you to come down with this football. I expect you to make
this second foot in.
Yeah, to get this second foot in. This is a design slot fade. The safety bites down too. I'm guessing he thought this was going to be some sort of post or something. Nope, slot fade. He's not in the play anymore. Ball's right where it needs to be. Got to make that catch, Malik.
Yeah, I think I remember from seeing the replay on the broadcast where it's closer angle. The way he came down was a little awkward for him to get that second foot in, just
It was.
based on how he got that in. But he's got to find a way. You're right, to get that second foot in.
Like there, when I'm watching red zone and I see somebody makes a contested catch along the sideline,
Yeah,
and then it's like, oh, it's Justin Jefferson. I just automatically assume the catch is made, right?
right.
Like, oh wow, yeah, that's going to
We
be a
want that to be
completion.
the case with Neighbors.
Yeah, and I think it will be too. But
Yeah,
he's got to figure out a way to get that foot in bounds. He's way too good of a receiver for that. Now we're gonna have a 3rd and 3. This is the whole shot. We were giving Daniel Jones some kudos before. Now this is a late whole shot to Darius Slayton that should have sent Darius Slayton to the hospital. It seems like, because Minka Fitzpatrick just drives
oof.
right through his rib cage. Oh my god,
He's taken so many hits this year, Slayton. Remember the Dallas week fade where he just kind of like got destroyed on that one?
I do. I do. You just got to get this football out a little bit sooner, man. You could see Dante Jackson set. He goes to double hand jam to the inside, and then his hips come forward while Darius Slayton, quote unquote, wins outside. But it's Dante Jackson wanted him to go that way. Like he was fine
Yeah,
with him going that way because you have the safety flowing over top. You just need to deliver the football in a timely manner towards the sideline with perfect touch over the top of Dante Jackson, who does a good job sinking a little bit, but his eyes get on Wan'Dale Robinson. And this is something we talked about last week, Dan. When the Giants are in these 2x2 sets or even these 3x2 sets, these outside cornerbacks, they'll cut underneath an out route from the number 2
right.
to the number 3. This is just straight up cover 2 zone. But Dante Jackson is playing this Wan'Dale Robinson route, and there is a lot of space for Darius Slayton, and it's just a tick too slow for Daniel Jones. And it comes out high, and I'm fine with it high, but if it comes out high like that, you got to throw it earlier. If you throw it high like this a little bit late, you're going to get your receiver killed.
Yeah, and this is something that Peyton Manning said. He saw it. He took too long, stared at it, and that allowed Minka to break on it. He also said he thought that he floated the ball out there too much. I would agree. That ball needs more drive. You can't. That ball just has got to zip in there if you're going to take the whole shot. And it's a big thing we've always talked about with Jones. Like we're happy. I'm happy that he's recognizing this and actually throwing it. I've just almost never seen this. I feel like on his film, him taking this whole shot. It's kind of crazy to watch. Just that it's been this long, and that this reminds me of maybe the first time I've seen him take the shot. But maybe why he hasn't been taking them is because he can't drive them. It's possible. You got to be
Well,
able to drive this throw.
you need to be able to drive it. Daniel Jones doesn't necessarily have that type of arm talent to consistently deliver a drive pass that also
Yeah,
requires a little bit of touch. And when you combine that or you
right.
couple that with his lack of anticipatory skills and that natural feel to when to throw the football and how to fully comprehend the spatial relationship between his receiver and the coverage, you're not going to get that a lot. And think back to the
Sure.
2022 season. We did this podcast back then. When did we ever see a whole shot like this against cover
No,
2?
he didn't.
We didn't. We didn't at all. The Giant, like again, I charted it once. I don't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but Daniel Jones throwing outside the number from within the pocket, outside the numbers from within the pocket, it was rare in his career, and
You said it was
especially
5 total in his career.
no, that was something else. I'm talking
Oh, it was
about
20 plus outs from within the
yeah,
pocket.
it
Yeah. All right.
was rare, and a lot. Some of the times they did it was like a sale concept to like Tanner Hudson. It was a very rare instance, and a lot of
Yeah.
defensive coordinators would scheme to allow those receivers a little bit more space because they were not confident that Daniel Jones would pull the trigger. Here, we're seeing confidence, but we're not seeing ability, and that's one of the reasons why he lacks confidence more than likely.
Sure.
That's an indictment on his quarterbacking play.
It's a good reason too. I mean, the anticipation stuff is important. That's what Troy Aikman pointed out on the broadcast after this about, and so did Peyton Manning, about how you got to be able to see this faster and get it out. I think you did the best job with that personally. To be completely honest, at least in my opinion, Nick, I respect Aikman and Peyton, and I know they know more football than you. I'm not trying to say
Yeah.
they don't, but I do like the way you described it on last night's podcast, where for Jones, it just seems like he always has to confirm things before he can throw them. It's always, can I confirm it? Sometimes you don't need to confirm it, man. You just have to anticipate it. You have to trust that you're confident that you're going to be right about it and not wait to see it right. And that's always been an issue for him. But I think this is also a great example when I talk about the ball floating up there and not having enough drive on it, of why I've always said that I don't believe that he has good arm talent. And I don't believe that I really view wanting a quarterback with just this kind of arm talent. For me, I set a higher bar. I want the Herbert and the people who can drive this type of throw because of this reason, because there's not a lot of time. And if you can't anticipate things fast enough and you can't win with anticipation like a Drew Brees or quarterbacks like that, a Phil Rivers, who didn't have, the ability to always drive the ball, though Brees early on did, but Rivers was never a drive thrower and he won with anticipation. Well, then you got to have that ability to drive the football, that natural arm talent. If you don't have both, there's just almost no path for me to see you becoming anything that you can ever rely on from a
especially when
consistent
you're
standpoint.
especially when your eyes go directly there. It's like you're
Yeah,
sitting there hanging your eyes on Dante Jackson for a second and a half, and that gives
right.
Mick Patrick a
Because
runway.
but why is he hanging his eyes there, Nick? It's because of what you said last night, because he wants
Yeah,
to
he's trying to
confirm it.
confirm it.
That's the problem. He's reading it to confirm it. And that's why you see him sometimes make those good deep shots where he can hold it safety with his eyes. That safety's so far downfield, there's more space to work with, right? Like he has more room for margin for error on those plays because safety can't get back in time. Here, there's not a lot of space to work with. There's not a lot of margin for error. You got to have the arm talent to rip it, and you got to have the anticipation to throw this thing.
It's at this moment where you watch other quarterbacks on tape and they see that this is cover two. They see how both the safeties, they're flowing out to their deep half responsibilities, and you have Dante Jackson just squatting. You have him sitting here, and it would be tough for Dante Jackson to sink underneath if Daniel Jones put this football at like the 48-yard line on the sidelines with just enough touch and drive. And I know that seems like it's counter, or they're counter of each other, but it's not. If you can just touch it over the top, but also put a little oomph on it, you can complete that pass. It's easier said than done, but we watch Aaron Rodgers and quarterbacks like that do this kind of shit all the time. And Jones instead waits, throws it, and gets his receiver almost knocked out of the game.
Yeah, it's a tough one to watch on tape. It's a good example of his limitations. He obviously made some good throws in this game as well. We're not trying to harp on one play, but it is a great example of what's held him back as a quarterback at the NFL level. And I thought Troy Aikman did a great job breaking it down. Peyton Manning and you yourself did a great job as well, Nick. It's unfortunate because that was a 3rd and 3, and not only did it get Slayton knocked, with a big hit, but it also stopped the drive.
It did also stop the drive. Now we're gonna have a 3rd and 3, second quarter. Well, no, a 3rd and 8. I'm sorry. Second quarter, 1:16 left. So we have the Giants driving, attempting to get into field goal range. This is a good play by Darius Slayton. Runs a dig route, finds the space.
And it's a completion.
He almost broke this thing. Exactly. And I love the fact that, these safeties, they rotate and it creates this space. Daniel Jones diagnosed it and Darius Slayton ran right into it. This could have been a massive play. It ended up being a huge play.
It's a good throw by Jones, too. It's on time.
It absolutely is. Because look, man, you're going to have that safety come down. He's going to buzz down right over the middle of the field. The other safety drops deep. So he takes a deep center field type of responsibility. Daniel Jones diagnoses this and understands that Darius Slayton just needs to win inside against Dante Jackson. Win inside against Dante Jackson. He does that pretty easily on this play. And it's a great job by Darius Slayton. And I'm hoping we get to see Darius Slayton as a New York Giant for more games with the trade deadline going on and everything. Yeah. I expect us to, but he's a damn good football player, man.
Yeah, I believe it was maybe Duggan or Art Stapleton today who said he doesn't get the vibe that the Giants are going to be interested in trading Slayton or Azeez Ojulari unless they get overwhelmed with an offer. And it hasn't been a big market, right? Like Josh Uche, who's a good, is that his first name? Josh Uche, the Patriots pass rusher, who's a good situational pass rusher. I think Azeez is a better player, but it's still a good player. Went for a 6th round pick today, right?
Yeah.
Deontay Johnson, a much better player, I would say, than Darius Slayton, or at least a better player than Darius Slayton.
I think he's a better player. I don't know if he's a much better.
Okay. Yeah. Slayton's kind of underrated, but a better player than Darius Slayton. Went for a 5th, 6th round pick swap, which is one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. I think Dan Morgan is so in over his head as a GM for the Panthers. I don't see him lasting. I think he did horrible on the Burns trade, and I think he did terrible. Even worse, this Deontay Johnson trade is one of the stupidest trades I've ever seen. They're doing a pick swap, Nick, with a team that's going to finish like top 4. So it's going to end up being like a 20 pick swap to trade Deontay Johnson. Like, what the F was that? I mean, maybe that's the best offer they got, but at that point, you just eat it and keep it. Like, what the hell are you doing there?
Maybe they just want to get more snaps for Coker
and Mingo
and Leggett. I heard it was Leggett and not Leggett, which is upsetting.
I had been calling him Leggett, but it might be Leggett.
Good play by Daniel Jones. And I want to show you this too, man. So Daniel Jones, I like this play. It's good. It's a good job by Jones. But watch Darius Slayton as he gets up and points. This is a little funny. Gets up, does the double hand point, and he's like, "Nah, actually, I'm just going to go with the single hand point. I'm just going to go
get another penalty.
I ain't getting another penalty, man."
Good for him.
That's a 3rd and 8 play. Now we're going to have a 2nd and 10 shotgun zone read run. So this was right after the Giants ran duos to start the third quarter. So again, they opened the second half. We're going to run shotgun duo, and then we're going to run shotgun zone read. You could see the difference. Daniel Jones is looking at the end man on the line of scrimmage. He sees two defenders, one being Joey Porter Jr., hands the football off. And this is just great job by Tyrone Tracy Jr. to find that little crease. Great job by the Giants blocking. Another excellent block by Greg Van Roten to get up to the second level and eliminate 41. I thought John Michael Schmitz did a really good job removing Patrick Queen, who was late into the box as well. So again, much better game by John Michael Schmitz, in my opinion. And Tyrone Tracy Jr. takes us for a massive game.
Yeah, this was a big one for the Giants here.
And then we're going to have a 3rd and 5. This is something I wanted the Giants to do all game, and I was kind of saying it in my living room by myself. And it was whenever Pittsburgh, and I saw this on tape watching their film in the lead up to this game, whenever they were in press bail, throw into the leverage. Because Joey Porter Jr. is going to give that up often. And they weren't in press bail a ton, but when they do this and they have their hips basically oriented towards the safety and they're bailing at the snap, just throw into the leverage. Jones does a good job diagnosing this, throws it to Malik Neighbors. Malik Neighbors works into Porter's blind spot, and this ends up being a quick and easy completion to move the sticks on a 3rd and 5 when the score was tied at this time. And now they're in field goal range, right? Start of the second half, an excellent place to be in. Let's take a lead, maybe 12-9. Maybe they'll even score a touchdown, Dan. Unfortunately, we know that's not what happened.
Yeah, they get backed up by 2 sacks after this, take 3 points off the board, unfortunately.
And we'll go over those 2 plays right now. So there was a run that was stopped at the line of scrimmage. Now here's a 2nd and 10. You're going to see Daniel Jones try to evade, get away from the sack. Chris Hubbard got beat cleanly by the spin from Alex Highsmith, who is a very good football player, mind you. Alex Highsmith is good, man. He had like 3 spins very similar to this. He was toying with Chris Hubbard this entire game, ran away from, I think that's Devin Singletary or Tyrone Tracy Jr., who was attempting to help high side. He didn't go high side. He went underneath, and he got home.
Yeah, this is one of those sacks. I always talk about sacks and how they're not always all on the offensive line. This is one I would say is all on the offensive line here, specifically one offensive lineman.
Yeah, that's such a clean move. I was able to come to balance like that too.
Nothing he can do.
And then
the next one, this one to me is no good.
This is terrible on Daniel Jones. It's a 3rd and 19. You have to be situationally aware of where you
Think about getting into field goal range here.
Or
taking the shot to Neighbors, one of the 2.
All you need is a check down. You could take this shot to Neighbors. I'm fine with the way this game was going, just throwing this football
to Tracy.
To Singletary or Tracy, whoever that is, in the flat. He's wide open. He has 10 yards of space that will get into Greg Joseph's field goal range, possibly even more. And he just runs right into a player that it doesn't seem like he was aware was even in his vicinity.
Well, this is just one of the biggest issues when it comes to Jones. I tweeted about it last night. Whenever he gets pressure up the arc and he's forced to step up, it's never just a subtle step up or a little slide up and then kind of resetting within that little box. It's always this, triple hop up or like kind of running into contact type of situation here. Like there's just no reason here to bail right there. You've evaded that arc. Now stop. Move back on a little bit on the tape. Just stop right there, dude. Just stop. A little forward. Stop. Reset yourself. Stop. And you have a full pocket. Now, eventually, this D lineman might beat the guy, right? Might beat whoever that lineman is. I think it's JMS. But by that point, you can reset and get down to Tracy. At the very least, you can check down. I would personally like him to take the shot to Neighbors. Like somebody said, like I told you earlier, if you're even, he's leaving. Give Neighbors a chance here. Take a chance to win the game here because that safety is not going to be able to get over there. At least I hope you can trust your arm. But at the very least, just like find a way to just reset your pocket there. Don't panic always in these pockets, but it feels like whenever he gets that arc pressure, man, it's too many times we've seen this on tape where he just can't deal with the arc pressure and it's the pressure up the arc and it's just an immediate run into a sack for really no reason here.
No, it's Eric Gray who's out there. And you're right. Gray. Like you gotta get the football to Gray or Theo Johnson. Gray had a lot more space. Easier said than done. I get it. But
this one, this one's not easier said than done. This one I see by plenty of quarterbacks all throughout the NFL. This is just
and look at that rep by Chris Hubbard against TJ Watt, too. It's a solid rep by Chris Hubbard to remove TJ Watt. And you have so much time. You have a perfect pocket. Get rid of the football. Get in the field goal range. Score some points. No, you cannot panic there. You cannot take a sack. The Giants were in field goal range.
Panic in his game, man. There's just so much panic in his game.
It's frantic Jones, man. It was a 3rd and 5 that they were able to convert, and then they found themselves in a 3rd and 19, had an opportunity
Right.
to
get
have
back
an
in
answer
field goal range at the very least.
range. They were on the fringes of it anyways, and they take a sack. It's just
Yep.
inexcusable, man. That's what loses you football games, dude.
Yeah, it does.
Now, this is a 3rd and 16. So this is a deep curl versus cover 3 to Malik Neighbors. I thought Malik Neighbors does a great job finding space here because he has 2 defenders on this side, right? You have 2 defenders. You have one slightly inside leverage in a press alignment. He runs around him, and then he goes at Joey Porter Jr., curls up to the inside, makes a strong hands catch, and then falls. I think this was after an incomplete pass that was towards him, so he made up for it with this play to put the Giants in a position to convert on a 3rd and 16, which is absolutely excellent. It's a great play.
Great observation about by you about him just finding space there, because there wasn't really much to work with. Just using his athleticism, using his ability to throttle down and then create that little catch radius.
And as you guys are watching this, I hope you realize how many pockets are clean. Like, these are a lot of plays Dan and I go over. A lot of these pockets are clean. I know Jones was sacked 4 times in his game, but against the Pittsburgh Steelers, other than Chris Hubbard, who was really bad in this game, but he was put into a terrible position. So we're not trying to kick him while he's down either. The Giants offensive line bounced back from 2 questionable performances.
For sure.
On the road.
Not the game to crush the O-line.
Yeah, no, absolutely not, dude. And now we're going to get a 1st and 10, start of the 4th quarter. I think it still says 3rd and 16, but I believe this is 1st and 10. This is the deep pass. And Jones this is a good pass, in my opinion, man. You got to catch this if you're Malik Neighbors. Is another one. Far hash. He puts a very catchable football up there. There's actual touch on it. You can see how it goes over the top of, I think that's Dante Jackson. Dante Jackson does a good job getting his hands on Malik Neighbors. It seems like that could be a little late. Nah, I think that's within 5 yards, right? Gets his hand on him a little bit. You're not going to call it anyways. That's very tight coverage. Great job by Jackson. Malik Neighbors has to make this catch, though.
Yep.
We're going to see it from the
end zone. I thought he was hurt after that play, too. I was glad he wasn't.
Oh, my God. That would have been devastating.
Another example of pretty solid protection, too.
You don't see a lot of passes like this from Jones, man. That actually has some air underneath it.
Yeah. You're right. He did change the pace of that throw. He threw the ball really well in this game, naturally speaking, just like the natural throwing in this game compared to his whole season. This was, I thought, the best, just from a natural throwing standpoint, this is the best it's looked all year for him. I don't know why that is or why it was, but this just was easily, to me, the best it's looked.
No one wants to hear it, right? And I get why. This is 6 years in with Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
But like, he did look better on tape than I anticipated.
Same. Yeah, he looked better on tape. I mean, it doesn't matter at this point to me.
I get, 100%. 100%.
He did look better.
So we'll see. Steps up into the pocket. It's just those boneheaded mistakes, the interception. It's stuff like that that's just like
if you can't anticipate, you just have no chance in the NFL.
I know, man. It's tough. Here's Tracy's 45-yard touchdown run.
So nice.
So nice. We're going to go back.
The build-up speed, the way he finishes that run, that's something I just love. Like, the position his body, so when he gets taken out there, the ball is ahead of him and past the pylon, is so savvy in that moment.
He hits 20.6 miles per hour on this run. It's the first time in 2 years a ball carrier for the New York Giants has hit that with the ball in his hands.
Whoa, wait a second.
Yeah.
Wait a second. Did you say Giants ball carrier? We had Saquon Barkley.
Nah, he did not correct that. According to NFL Next. According to NFL Next.
He doesn't deserve to get killed for that. And he deserves to get killed for a lot of things, let's be honest. And we're heading for a rough time for the Giants. Look at that jump cut, the lateral agility.
It's the jump cut, but it's also how he presses the line. We talk a lot on this podcast about pressing the line of scrimmage. What we mean by pressing the line of scrimmage is how tight he gets to these blocks. And what that does is it makes that angle of the safety so much less advantageous. Watch, because that safety is going to get close to the line of scrimmage, close to the line of scrimmage, close to the line of scrimmage. He's trying to look through 4 gigantic human beings to find Tyrone Tracy Jr. And Tyrone Tracy Jr. has the type of burst and the acceleration through the hole that can make safeties who are not in optimal positions pay for their aggressiveness. And that's exactly what he does here. Yeah, look at that. For a lesser running back who's not as athletic and not as explosive makes this tackle. 3 Steelers dive, and they just miss the feet of Tyrone Tracy Jr. That little bit of athleticism makes that much of a difference in the NFL, man. A lot of running backs aren't slipping through there like that.
You're 100% right about that. To press the line of scrimmage, the lateral agility to make that cut, and then the build-up speed, breakaway speed, plus the ability to finish the run with the contact balance at the very end and the positioning the ball that we talked about earlier. It's why we think he's shown a lot of special traits. It's not like we're watching like some rookie running back that's pretty good and we're hyping him up. Like, this looks like the real deal for the Giants. And I think it's one of the most exciting things they have on their roster right now.
And I'll tell you this, man, I have friends around the league, friends who cover a bunch
Okay.
of other NFL teams, and they tell me like, yeah, I think 29 is real. I think
Yeah.
you got a real one. This isn't just Giants Twitter or Dan and I making this assessment. Tyrone Tracy Jr. is a good football player, man.
We finally did it. We
Finally did it.
We finally landed one of these like special picks. Like, we've always been like, oh, the Chiefs got Trey Smith in round 6. I can't believe it. Why can't we do something like that? Well, I feel like the Giants did something like that with Tyrone Tracy. I really do believe that.
I think you're right, man. I hope you're right. And here's the backside dig, Dan. Look at this. Look at this from Daniel Jones. We have a 3-by-1 set with Darius Slayton as the lone receiver on the backside. Outside the numbers, Daniel Jones opens up. He's looking at Wan'Dale. He's looking at Malik. I'm going to go back to that backside dig, and I'm going to rip it right to Darius Slayton. He almost
it always feels like he has his
outside.
biggest trust throws with Slayton.
Yes, but I was just glad that he was able to do this right after we were saying, oh, yeah, we've like never seen him do it. Because to be honest, we don't see him do this often.
Yeah, and by often, this might be like one of the first few times we've seen it in 6 years. I think it's definitely under a handful.
Yeah, it's crazy. That's a good play by Jones. Again,
Yep.
Sets up the pocket, doesn't like what he sees.
He had some of his best moments in this game. It's very odd, man. Like, it's just like and then all that will be remembered was how he ended it, right? The sack fumble where he couldn't get the protection set and he screwed up from a mental side there. And then the interception where he panicked and just chucked it off his back foot. It's like, that's what ends up happening, in these games. It's tough. You gotta win games. You can't be 2-6 every time. It's just, as the quarterback and the leader, it always comes down to this, Nick. It's not like we're blaming him. I hate when people say, this is like, you're blaming him for this. You're blaming that guy for this and this guy for that. It's more of just like what somebody said. He's not the reason they're losing, but he's also not the reason they're winning.
Exactly. And then we got another good Hubbard rep right here against TJ Watt.
Yeah. Wow.
I'm sure they used to go up against each other all the time in practice because Chris Hubbard used to. Yeah, it's not a bad rep from him. Love that throw. Love that play. Now we're going to get a 17-yard insane run by Tyrone Tracy Jr., who just could not be stopped. I was like, yo, what the hell? Is he going to go down ever? He's just running through Pittsburgh Steelers. Looks like freaking Mark Bavaro out there, dude. Against the 49ers. But look at that. And that's such a skinny hole, man. What a way to anticipate that. You get the double team. Hubbard gets up to the second level to engage 41. That hole just opens up. He squeezes through. Contact balance, physicality,
this was my favorite run of this whole game.
Absolutely love it, dude.
The power to finish that run, the contact balance was phenomenal.
17 yards. And now we're going to get a great throw on a 2nd and 10 late in the fourth quarter. Giants trying to drive to score a touchdown, get a 2-point conversion to tie this football game up. And this is a beautiful pass by Daniel Jones up the seam in a 3-by-1 set to Theo Johnson, who runs a nice little stick and nod up there. It's very subtle, but creates just enough space for this football to be delivered. And you can see it on this angle. That's just a beautiful ball by Daniel Jones. That's a very good pass by Daniel Jones up the seam. Over the top. Allows Theo Johnson to use his athletic ability, climb that ladder, haul it in. You have 4 Pittsburgh Steelers in his immediate area.
Right.
Love
nice
seeing
tight window seam throw from Jones. One of the best throws we've seen from him, potentially in his career, to be completely honest with the situation.
And the decisiveness to throw this football is another thing I love. I wish the camera angle was a little bit wider because he hits the back foot and he's firing. And I want to know exactly where Theo is here. So I might rewind it just a little bit. Bear with me, YouTube audience. So he hits his back foot and he's throwing the football basically right as Theo Johnson is coming off that subtle nod. That's anticipatory throwing right there. And it's putting it high as well. That's a good play. Excellent play. I wish we saw it more often, and it went for 25 yards. Now we're going to have a 2nd and 7. It's another good job by Daniel Jones, actually, to find Malik Neighbors late along the sidelines. You got to watch Daniel Jones' eyes and what he's doing. He's scanning left and comes back to the right. So these are maybe the little things that Brian Dable is saying, like, hey, Daniel's still showing stuff on tape. I didn't see it against Philadelphia. I didn't see it against Cincinnati. I'm seeing it in this game. I still think on this 2-6 team with the injury clause and all of the factors weighed in, the lack of explosive plays and the mistakes, you still should go to Drew Lock. But At least it's not as terrible as we presumed last night when we were doing the stream.
Yeah, his 2 best throws came on this final drive. It's kind of crazy to me. Like, this is a really phenomenal play by him. He's scanning left, the pocket's collapsing on him, and he comes all the way back to the right and rips this throw in a great spot to Neighbors.
And it's that flip too. That's a fluid motion by
Right.
Daniel Jones. Like, look, flip. That's like a Dak Prescott.
It's like the stuff we just wish we saw like every game and more often, right? Like, because that's the thing. The good quarterbacks do this 10, 15 times a game, or 5, 10 times a game, or maybe they'll take a game off, but they'll come right back with another. It just seems weird that it's like at the end of the game we get this from him.
The Giants were just running this dagger type of concept on that final drive, and Daniel Jones wasn't throwing it to that direction. He was finding the backside often.
Yeah,
which I got to give him credit for
sure. Good recognition. It's funny because it comes and then this plays the next one.
And then here we go. And these are reasons why you just want to rip your hair out, man. Daniel Jones, like, what are you doing? Why are you throwing off your back foot? Why did you airmail it? Like, what are you doing on this play? It's 2nd and 10. There's 42. You have enough time. I know time isn't necessarily working on your side. You don't have timeouts, but what the hell are you doing on this play, man? The pressure's not even that bad, dude.
Yeah, this is just one of those inexplicable plays that occasionally come up with him. The Houston game in the preseason that people said, oh, Jones doesn't have that much. Well, this is just a weird one because there's obviously Theo Johnson wide open. You go to him and you keep the drive going. Even if your read is Singletary, you don't want to be in this position. Like, he's just panicking. This is what happens to him sometimes. He panics under the pressure and just loses his fundamentals. Like, this is like, look at the footwork on this throw.
No, it's terrible.
It's as bad as it gets, really. It's a jump backwards throw.
Yeah, he thought 92, who did a great job looping around the penetrator and separating from John Michael Schmitz, had a free run on him, but he flowed out behind Jermaine Illuminor to give himself a little bit more space and then just airmailed it and it was intercepted. It's just inexcusable at this point. We've seen this script way too many times.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to say it. We've just seen it happen too much. All right, Nick, let's wrap up with some superlatives here.
All righty, let's do it, buddy.
All right, let me get as my document loads, your unheralded player on tape.
Yeah, Theo Johnson. And it wasn't just the surprising athletic ability that we haven't necessarily seen, even though he tests like it at the combine on that catch, the 25-yard catch of the scene that we just watched. It was pass blocking. It was run blocking. Very physical. And I got to say this, though, too, which does suck. I get the upside of Theo Johnson, but we only get 1 snap for Daniel Bellinger. I know there wasn't a ton of 12 personnel, and Chris Manhertz is certainly a tight end you want out there for his physicality, but we know Daniel Bellinger can be physical. We know Daniel Bellinger has upside as a receiver that we haven't necessarily seen. I'm not saying that he's freaking Jeremy Shockey or anything like that, but he's not a complete stiff either. He only got 1 snap in this game, which is very unfortunate for him.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on there, but it's a weird situation. Theo Johnson was also my unheralded player. Thought it was his best game overall, and I thought it was his best game blocking for sure, and then had some really big moments as a pass catcher. That was a good catch by him. It was a great throw, better throw, but also a good
one more
best
player,
throw on tape for you.
One more player that didn't see the field at all was Jalen Hyatt.
Yeah.
And you're sitting there, like, dude, I have no idea what's going on with Hyatt. Hyatt's like, yeah, he got injured on the last game. It's like, yeah, but he dressed.
Yeah, just the wide
he's not seeing the field. He's just not seeing the field.
Him. Bad situation. All right, best throw for you.
Best throw was the Theo Johnson seam ball.
It was my best throw too, but let's play this other one that I thought was the second best throw. You actually just played it before, so we don't need to replay it again, but it was the Neighbors sideline throw that came right after the Theo Johnson throw. The pocket was condensing on Jones, and it was really natural flowing play from him. I thought you described it best. He actually looked natural on it and not so robotic, and just got the ball out there.
Yeah, he got the ball out there. It was an impressive play.
It really was. It's just weird. Those are the flashes that keep the Giants coming back. Best player overall on tape. I think this one's obvious.
Tyrone Tracy Jr. Man.
Yes.
He balled, baby. Get healthy, buddy.
Player you expected to see more from.
Player I expected to see more from. I'm going to say, and I don't think he played bad in this game, but I'm going to say John Runyon. The hold, I know it was a little ticky-tacky. It was still a hold. There were a couple other plays where I felt like he missed an assignment possibly, but I don't think it was necessarily anything too glaring. It's more so the entire offensive line played well other than Chris Hubbard, and I just felt like there were a couple issues with Runyon. So I went with him.
Fair.
But I still think
I went with Hubbard just because, again, there were some decent moments, but I was expecting maybe a little bit more as to why they would play him over Azudu. But it is what it is. Pass blocking grade 1 through 10.
Pass blocking grade a 6.8.
Okay, that's 6.5. What about run blocking?
5.8.
6.0 for me on the run blocking. Some good holes there in the game, and then some decisive running from Tyrone Tracy. All right, thank you so much for tuning into Big Blue Banter Podcast, the offensive film review. Stay tuned for the defensive film review, and we'll be right back at you. I teased something about the draft that's coming. It's actually going to be moved to next week, so just a heads up on that front. Please like and subscribe and support the show. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll talk to you soon.